Hi, my name is Terry Bush. I am 49 years old. Today is November the 18th, 2015. It is approximately 10:25 a.m. You'll have to excuse the way I look. I am on October the 31st, Halloween night, at, it was Halloween day, 10 a.m. I was on my way into Princeton, Indiana with my son, Chris Willard, to buy some Halloween supplies because my granddaughter was coming over to spend Halloween with us. It was about 10 o'clock, a little after. I started experiencing numbness on my left side. I could not feel anything. I could not think. Everything was very wrong. I went to the Gibson General Hospital in Princeton, Indiana. I have been there many times. This time was no different than any of the other times. My service was handled very professionally, and I feel like I had very good care while I was there. And I had a CAT scan done to show that I had no bleeding, so I was eligible to get a TPA injection, which actually can stop a stroke that is in progress. I did opt for that. They explained all the risk. They were very good about it. The nurses, the doctor, everybody was wonderful. Considering the circumstances that and my son was with me throughout the whole time because he is my power of attorney. After him, and to help him, my sister Nikki LeMasters is also eligible to help make health decisions for me if I'm incapacitated. I did go with the TPA injection. I had to be transferred immediately to a larger hospital that handles stroke victims and has neurological department, ICU unit. The EMTs, one was a paramedic, the other one was the driver, were very helpful, very, very calming, informative, professional, very, very good guys that took me down there. They kept me calm, and they did help educate me in the area of a stroke on the way down. Once I arrived, they asked me if I wanted to go to Deaconess or St. Mary's. I had been to Deaconess Hospital, the main hospital, right off of First Avenue, several times in my life. I've never had a problem there. I've been treated there for emergency situations. I have also had surgeries, elective surgeries, and emergency surgeries there. I have never, ever experienced a problem with the doctors, any of the staff. So I felt like Deaconess was my best choice. It was closer to my house for my son to travel, and so I picked Deaconess. At that time, I was in the ambulance. They took me straight to Deaconess. My son was following not far behind. He had to make arrangements so that my sister could get there in order to help make decisions, and plus be there in case something were to happen. So when I first arrived there, everybody was very professional. Everybody was very sincere. It went straight to the neuro ICU unit. Then I was assigned a personal nurse because I had to have 24-hour observation after the TPA injection. I was assigned Margaret. She was my first shift nurse. She was on duty from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. She seemed very stern, but I thought that was probably a good thing. It seemed like she was going to be very good at her job, and so I felt safe. Then she went through the questioning of getting to know me, knowing who my power of attorneys was, if I had a living will. Then she got to the subject of my religion, and so if something were to happen and I needed someone to come in and give me my last rites, she wanted to know what church, denomination, so on and so forth, that I would want to come in and do my last rites. I explained to her that my religion was basically a spiritual religion, which is a lot of people classify as a pagan. She looked at me and said, "What? Are you what?" And she questioned my religion at that point. I felt very uncomfortable, not to mention I was already in shock and I was experiencing a stroke. Later on, after that conversation was over with, the doctor did walk in, Dr. Akula, very nice gentleman, young doctor. I did look him up. He has comes with high regards and respect. He was very professional. He was very nice and informative. However, this Margaret did go ahead and continue to complain about Gibson General because they did not do a proper port in my arm. She felt for a IV, and that they did not install a catheter upon me before me leaving and before they administered the TPA. So she was very, very mean and hateful in her words toward Gibson General, which I did not like because I've always been handled very professionally there, and I've got a good rapport with everyone there at Gibson General. Then my son came in, my blood pressure went up. I've not had any problems with my blood pressure. As of lately, I have had high blood pressure. I do take blood pressure medicine, but 2 readings, my blood pressure was just a little bit elevated. She immediately kept walking around with this medication, saying, oh, I've got the medicine that can take this down in no time. My son was a little apprehensive about her giving it to me. She went ahead and gave it to me. It did drop my blood pressure, and during that time, she explained to me and my son that this medication was so strong that it could drop your blood pressure almost instantly. Matter of fact, bottoming the blood pressure out to where you could actually die. So she made it well known that she was in control of my life right there at that moment. And my son got the same impression. He was apprehensive about leaving, but another nurse did come on duty at 7 o'clock before he left. Her name was Sarah Brown. Very wonderful girl. Very professional. Very good person. Absolutely informative. Caring. I could not have asked for a better nurse. This girl was just night and day compared to this other lady. She was very helpful. As a matter of fact, she never left my side. She was in there. She went above and beyond the call of duty. And I'm not saying this because I knew her. I have never heard of her. I first met her at 7 p.m. when she came on her shift that night of the 31st, when she became my second shift nurse. However, during that time, I knew I was not being able to be administered my regular medications because of the TPA injection for 24 hours. Well, after the 24 hours had passed, and by this time Margaret had came back on shift, my sister arrived shortly after. My son had already, my best friend had came and visited me that night when Margaret was on shift, before Sarah Brown had got there on the 31st. He noticed immediately that he thought that Margaret's intentions toward me and her actions toward me were strange. He said he felt like she was somewhat jealous of me. She questioned my religion with him as well. He tried to explain it to the best of his ability. She criticized men at that point, saying all men were cheaters. He had a very bad feeling. He even had told me, and we talked on the phone later on, and he actually had came back later on that night and told me he had a very uncomfortable feeling about her. When my sister got there, my sister immediately got an uncomfortable feeling about her, same as my son had. My son did not want me left alone. My sister did not want me left alone when she was on duty. She had made a statement in front of another nurse about the fact that how she could drop my blood pressure. And so I better behave while the other nurse was on duty because of the fact that she could drop my blood pressure very easily. Not the other nurse, but Margaret. And I knew that. It just began. And so, but anyway, to make a long story short, because I can't make this very long or it won't be posted, I had, before it was all said and done, I had metallic hair color in my hair for Halloween when I went into the ER, and when I went into the neuro ICU. I had explained to Sarah that this was in my hair because I knew I was going to be scheduled for an MRI to see if I had any bleeding due to the TPA or to see what the damage was from the stroke. So I was going to be scheduled on the following day, for a MRI. I explained to Sarah that I did have metallic hair coloring in my hair, and it did say metallic and metal, and it did have fire warnings on the cans. Sarah did tell Margaret when she came in at 7 a.m. on the 1st that I needed my hair washed because of the coloring. Margaret at that time made a statement that she didn't know how that would be possible to get my head into a sink since I was on bed rest. I was bedridden. I could not get up. Again, she was very rude about it. And then I went down for my MRI scan. And at 1:30, we actually got into the MRI about 2. My sister was there. My sister was laying out in the waiting area, taking a nap while I had my MRI done. I got down to MRI. There was 2 girls working the radiology department that was going to be doing the MRI, and then there was Margaret, and then there was a Valerie, who was she was working the floor, the neuro ICU unit, temporarily just for that shift that day to help out. Margaret mentioned to the radiology girls that I had metallic hair color in my hair, but that she did not think it was a problem. Did they think it would be a problem? They all kind of looked at it, did a quick glance at it, and said that, oh, well, I don't see it sparkling. It's not sparkly, so I don't think it'll be a problem. But if you have any weird feelings, just holler at us and let us know. Margaret said, yeah, because I didn't have no way of washing her hair since I couldn't get her out of bed. So they just all went on the assumption and the hopefully thinking that nothing would happen. Even though they did question it, they did look at it, they could see it. It was just a guess. It was not even a precautionary, well, let's wash it just to be sure, we'll come up with something, let's do whatever we gotta do. It was on my, it was all over my bangs. It was obviously, it was there, and I had explained this to them. Nevertheless, I got put into the MRI machine. Within 2 minutes of being in there, I could feel my hair pulling, I could hear it sizzling, I could feel the heat. I hollered and hollered at them. No one answered. I managed to get my hand down underneath the machine, at the end of the machine, and wiggle my fingers to where finally they stopped the machine, they stopped the process, and they asked me what was wrong. I explained to them my head was very hot and burning. They came over there, my hair was melting. The one girl put her hand on my hair, and it just, you could hear it being extinguished. She goes, your hair is very hot. I said, what is wrong? She goes, you can't be in here. This obviously, it's melting. It's on fire. It's melting your hair. I reached up. I could feel my hair. My hair was melting and just melting off into my forehead, my hands. She called for the nurse. The nurse came back and got me. Of course, they had to finish this MRI somehow because they had to find out there was damage from the stroke or the TPA injection. So the nurse immediately came down and got me, and somehow this same nurse, who had no way of getting my head into a sink, figured out real quick that she was an old professional at washing hair in a bed, because she took me immediately back upstairs to my room in the neuro ICU unit, and her and this Valerie, got a bucket, one of the basin wash tubs, and put it underneath my neck. Then Margaret got a bucket and poured water on my hair. She put shampoo in, then she put conditioner in, and as she was doing the rinsing process, she splashed my face and goes, there, just a little extra for you. Oh, here, have some more. And then she took a towel and slammed it in my face and told me to dry my face. This is a patient who is suffering a stroke and my hair had been just melted and caught on fire due to her negligence in an MRI scan. I was taken back, and at this point I had not had my medication for over 24 hours. I was having very bad anxiety attacks. I was having withdrawals from my not having my regular medication, thinking that I was not able to have my medication at this point still. So I went back for the MRI. My sister came in. I had one nurse go wake up my sister. My sister told her, she said, there's still, the coloring is on her forehead and in her eyebrows. And she took a washcloth and very aggressively just kind of washed my forehead, and goes, no, it's not. I splashed her in the face anyway, so there's no paint on her hair, no hair color on her face. I went back down. When I went back down to MRI this time, the girl who was doing the MRI, she looked at my hair and she goes, I don't see any color. She said, but gosh, your hair is falling out something terrible. And my sister had dried my hair in the room, and my hair was just falling out where it had just been, it was just falling out. Well, needless to say, I did go back for the MRI. They told me this time, oh, we're going to hand you a call button. We should have done that the last time, but we forgot. So if you feel anything that feels odd, call us immediately. And I could see that one girl was sitting at the foot of the MRI machine with me the whole time. I did get back up to after the MRI. It finally got completed. And my hair, when I got back, my sister came in. She took photos of, I've got bald spots on my hair, in my scalp. My scalp is burnt. I had to go back to the hospital on, my son had to take off work and take me back to the hospital after I was released. And he took me back on the 5th, where I had to go to the radiology department because I did have burns, not like open burns, but my scalp had been burnt. It still burns now. My forehead has a complete burning rash. It's finally, after using what they prescribed as aloe vera and hydrocortisone cream I've been applying to my scalp and my forehead, I'm starting to get a little bit of relief, but I'm still got a lot of very much tenderness on my scalp. My hair is half as thick as what it was. It was just a very devastating experience. I have been, before it was over with, to get out of it, because Margaret was not giving me my medication. My sister finally, on the 2nd, she finally called at 9:30. I had her because I was not getting my medicine, and Margaret kept telling me I was not going to get any of my medicine. Well, seemingly, when Sarah came on duty, I was getting administered my medicine, some of it. And I was asking about my anxiety medication. I knew I was having bad withdrawals. I knew that I was having one anxiety attack after the other. It was keeping my blood pressure elevated. I was scared to death that this woman was going to administer medication to me for my blood pressure that was going to bottom my blood pressure out, because she had said she would, and she already had. I had my sister at 9:30 on the 2nd, 9:30 a.m. on the 2nd. She called patient relations. She spoke to Tammy Miller. Tammy Miller, my sister explained to her that I was in this bed and I could not even function because of everything that was going on and I had experienced. Tammy was very, very helpful. Very helpful. Within 15 minutes of my sister speaking to Tammy Miller in the patient relations department at Deaconess, Margaret somehow miraculously brought my medication into me that she had been withholding for over 24 hours. And then Dr. Akula come in. He explained to me that he had written and told Margaret that if I asked for this medication, it was PRN, and to give it to me. This was something she did not do. He apologized greatly to me and my son for what I had experienced and what had happened to me, and he was astonished. He said that he could not believe that she did not contact him, that he had no knowledge of this. She took it upon herself not to contact the doctor at my request. She took it upon herself not to give me my medication, and I am just astonished. I'm scared to death to go back to the doctor. I have been still having anxiety attacks repeatedly following coming home just through my normal recovery. I've not been able to get into my primary care physician because of the time of the year it is, and he is out of the office, and he is the only one I do want to go see in regards to following up on this and what I need to do to help continue my recovery process. I am very dizzy. I am very weak. I am just a normal recovery process, I'm assuming, from having a stroke, because I've never had a stroke before. And so the anxiety of having to deal with what I went through in Deaconess Hospital, along with my regular recovery, has been very hard. I am a full-time psychology student. I have had to put my studies off now until the spring semester. It starts in January, and I'm in hopes that I am past some of this and I am back able to study in January. I have contacted the patient relations again in regards to the fact that I don't know what I'm going to do about the ongoing problem with my hair and with the tenderness. She has called me back. I just have literally not had time to call her back. I am seeking a very good legal representative in this matter, because I feel like it was neglect. I feel like it was definitely discrimination against the patient, which led to neglect. I do believe it all stemmed around this second shift Margaret, who is going to school for her bachelor's and as an RN. This woman does not need to work in healthcare or any care that can, any type of job that consists of any relations with another human being of any type, where she could possibly do harm or be discriminative towards someone, and it could result in injury, or even whether it be mental anguish, physical anguish, or worse. So I have an email address. I'm on Facebook, Terry K. Bush, TerryKayBusch. I do have to have a request for a friendship. My email address is eyes, EYES, wide, WIDE, open, OPEN, TKB at yahoo.com. So that's eyes wide open, TKB at yahoo.com. I would take anybody's opinion, ideas. I have contacted an advocacy group for patients that are discriminated against. Like I said, I am still currently working with Tammy Miller, the patient relations at Deaconess Hospital, Maine, in Evansville, Indiana. I appreciate your time for listening to this, and please, please always have someone with a patient at all times whenever they have had any type of health problems. I have 3 witnesses to what I went through. I have recordings, I have documentation, and this is so important. Please do not leave your family, friends, stranger. It doesn't matter who needs you. Be there with someone when they are going through a medical crisis, so there is always somebody there to oversee the care, to make sure that something even worse than lots worse. I'm certain there's a lot worse that has been done than this. But this is just a taste of what one person can do that can make a devastating situation even more devastating. And it's just been hideous. It's been terrible. I hope to hear from you, and I hope this helps someone in the future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.